Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another scary story Reddit reading. Today, I have to let you guys know that viewer discretion is strongly advised. We have very graphic, very disturbing stories today. We have talks of death, just a lot of violent and weird shit. So just viewer discretion advised. On that note, make sure you guys grab your snacks because we got a shitload of stories to get through and I'm not holding back. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to bleep what I can, but it's only so much I can do. Without further ado, let's go, mother truckers. But wait, you guys, you can't forget. You gotta subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Last month, I bought a mystery box from the dark web just for fun. There were a few butter knives, an old DVD player, in working condition, one doll, and some other non-significant things. I threw everything away except the DVD player because I had some of my old CDs I wanted to check. So I connected the DVD player to my TV and did my work. It was almost 11 o'clock at night. I turned on the TV in the room and went to bed. Around 2 o'clock, I woke up as I was thirsty and went to the kitchen. Along the way, I passed in front of the DVD player. The room was dark, and from the corner of my eye, I saw a faint red light beaming the DVD player. I got scared as the DVD player was no longer connected to the circuit. I quickly turned on the lights, and with the help of a screwdriver, opened up the DVD player. What was inside was probably the worst thing that has ever happened to me. There was a miniature camera with a little battery attached to it. I quickly removed the small battery and put the camera in a dark box. My first instinct was to call the police, but I waited till morning. Next day, I took that camera to my friend's shop to check what type of camera it was, and if it has recorded anything. I found out that the camera was not in working condition, and maybe the camera broke when the product was delivered. But the camera was designed that it records videos without any voice. Up to 24-hour videos can be recorded with it. And the small battery provides enough energy that it can provide the camera a life of about 8 hours when turned on. With this, the camera was connected, so when the DVD player is connected, the camera automatically starts. This was a sick joke, which failed due to low quality of products. I was relieved that the camera broke in the process. I called the police, documented the entire episode, and threw away the camera. That had so many grammar issues. I don't know how I got through. I could see this being true, to be honest. I really could, because there's people that hide cameras in all sorts of weird shit. They really do. Sockets, alarm clocks, smoke detectors. There's even nails, screws with cameras, but they have to be hardwired. I haven't seen any that are just free on their own. Anyways, let's go to another one. My earliest memory of a nightmare turned out to be a real event. First time poster, long time reader. So the title sounds like a no sleep story, and that's the first thing I thought when I first found this out about 2 months ago. I've been busy dealing with the wake of a family tragedy since then, but now that things are returning to the new normal, I figured it's a good time to share. I'm sorry in advance for any formatting issues. I'm on my phone. Buckle in. This is a long one. We're buckling in. Ooh. First, I'll describe the nightmare. It's a very short dream, and like I said, it's a very clear memory just because of how scary it was. I was about 4 or 5 years old, perhaps 6 at most, and my twin brother and I had a bunk bed in a room at the furthest end of the house we grew up in. The nightmare had been in my bed looking out the window to see a red sky. The kind it gets the early dawn hours before sunrise, but light still colors the sky. The next and the only other thing I remember in this nightmare is that a man with blue colored eyes and a bald head appeared at the window and stares at me. The nightmare ends there, but I remember just how much I screamed and screamed about it. I don't know where my brother was at the time when I woke up screaming, and the only thing I can remember from when I woke up was having my mom come and get me and calm me down. As she took me to her bedroom down the hall, I only remember that so well because I wondered where my dad was at the time. Fast forward to this May, and my father is in the hospital in the country he lives in, Colombia. And my twin brother and our older sister was staying in a hotel about a 5-minute walk away from the hospital he's staying at in the ICU. One night after a long day of being there for Dad and for the extended family, my siblings and I returned to the hotel and sit together to have a couple of beers and try to relax after all of that. We start discussing things, just trying to unwind, but somehow the discussion of nightmares and dreams comes up. And I bring up the above story. Without missing a beat, my sister straight up explains that had really happened. That some guy really did look through my window, and that she remembers the whole thing. My sister, who is 5 years older than my brother and I, so this would make her 9 to 10 years old, had her bedroom adjacent to the bedroom my brother and I shared. Her room faced our front lawn and street, while our room faced the neighbor's house, and their driveway was a very low fence between the two houses. While she didn't get into too much detail about the days before the nightmare event, she said that she had been followed by a bald man in a truck as she rode her bike home with some friends a couple of times before. The day immediately before this nightmare was no different, but the man this time actually drove right past the house. At the time, she was a latchkey kid, since my brother and I had to go to a special school about 45 minutes away from our hometown for a speech impediment that many twins have, and my mom had to pick us up rather than be home for my sister after school, but she was never really home alone for more than an hour. That afternoon and evening was pretty normal as she remembers it. My dad came home from his job. He worked as a part-time cop and worked in a local hardware store. And we all had dinner, did homework, played, and did some usual family things before bed. That night, around 12 to 1 a.m., this bald-headed dude had parked on the street at a small industrial park and walked up to our house and tried to get in through my sister's window, which woke her up, and she screamed when she saw the man nearly opening the window as it wasn't locked. My dad stormed in and tried to shove the guy out and tried to hit him with the nightstick he had. My sister doesn't remember exactly, and this caused the guy to run off, but only for a short time, as he came back a moment later to try and get into the window in my room. He tried opening the window, but it was locked because my mom didn't want my brother and I to open it because our bed was right up against it. My sister said I screamed as loud as I could, and my mom went in to get my brother and I, while my dad tried to go after him by running out the door to chase him. But to no avail, as the guy hauled ass right through our backyard. The way our backyard was situated had it backed up right against a small rail yard that is part of the aforementioned small industrial park down the street from us. Between our small neighborhood and that rail yard was a good amount of very dense trees that made the backyards very, very dark. So my dad didn't want to get attacked by him there, so instead he went back inside to our house. Then our elderly neighbor to make sure that they were okay while our mom took care of us. That is all my sister could remember from the night herself, as this was a very long time ago. Neither of us could recall anything else after that either, and the story just sort of stops right there. And my father sadly passed away in the hospital, so we aren't able to ask him, and none of us have thought to ask our mom yet, but maybe I will ask her soon. But for now, to the bald-headed creep who tried to do God knows what to my family, let's not meet again. This is a literal nightmare of mine. I'm so scared of this. I'm convinced that when I walk into this office almost every single time, I know it's so stupid, but my light switch doesn't work, so I have to like pull the cord in this room. I have blackout curtains in here, so it is pitch fucking black in here. I'm like, I'm gonna flick on that light and somebody's gonna be standing in the corner like, hey bitch. Or, you know, I open my windows somewhere in the house and there's like a motherfucker like, anyways, let's go to another one. I was trying to sell a computer component on Facebook Marketplace, and I planned on meeting a buyer who seemed very interested in the lobby of the apartment complex I lived in. When I got to the lobby, I noticed he had brought 2 friends with him, but all 3 of them were very nice, polite, and around my age, so no alarm bells went off at all. I showed him the computer component, and he examined it for a good 5 minutes, asking his friends for their input. Then said he'd buy it for sure, but was worried it was broken or damaged in some way, and wanted to see it operate first. Naive me, eager to just make the sale and accommodate the buyer as best I could, obliged and let the three in my apartment. We got into some good conversation and ended up chatting for around an hour. I had a lot of fun. The buyer had given me the cash for the computer component, which I placed in my pants pocket. Another 30 minutes or so of banter. I started insinuating they should get going as I had plans. Right then, one of the friends notices these $400 Burberry prescription glasses my parents had just bought me as a gift and put them on. He acted like when I first realized the vision with which I perceived the world could be corrected, and it was so much more beautiful than I had thought. Being the people pleaser type at that point in my life still, I remember I had a bunch of contacts in that same prescription, which I offered to let him have since he had my glasses. Didn't seem too strong or weak at all. Just perfect. He was giddy and smiling like a child. I told him to follow me to the bathroom so I could give him them and teach him how to put them in. About 5 minutes into doing so, the original buyer and the other friend stand in the doorway, barricading it. I turned around, and right when I do, the buyer says in the calmest voice, "You know, you seem like a really nice guy and all, but the real reason we came here was to rob you. So what you're going to do is keep your mouth the fuck shut, or I'll shoot this through your fucking head. Or my buddy here, the one I was teaching to put in contacts, will rip your fucking stomach open." My jaw dropped. I froze. The contact guy immediately went into the kitchen and grabbed 2 knives and duct tape from his belongings, while the other friend reached into my pockets and took my phone, wallet, keys, and the cash the buyer had used to pay for the computer component. They took all my electronics, majority of my valuables, while I was sitting in a chair with knives pointed at me, watching these scumbags take my hard-earned belongings, not able to do a thing. After a 15-minute pass, one of them breaks a vase I had, which scared the other 2 into running out the door to escape with my car, while Knife Guy tells me to get up and walk down the hallway into the bathroom and get in the bathtub. At this point, I was like, fuck, he's gonna stab me to death and wants an easy cleanup. I was oddly calm after that point. Shock is weird. While he proceeds to restrain me further with the duct tape, his buddies call his phone while waiting for him out front of the apartment complex with my now stolen car. He asked them what he should do with me, which made me nauseous. The other 2 must have been scared of being caught since it was midday and said to just leave me because after he hung up with them, he just bolts out the door. I instantly get up, lock the front door, comically barricade it with as much furniture as I can, and rethink how I got in this situation. ... LOL. Luckily, the guy with knives was stupid enough to tell me enough information about him, like that he was a Sagittarius and from Kentucky. Lied about his name. The cop eventually told me after a search warrant for his Venmo banking details. So that police could identify him, he Venmo'd me saying he'd give me gas money if I drove them a few blocks away since it was midsummer and very hot. 2 out of the 3 of them were arrested within a month. The third was never caught. Buyer got 4 years in prison, and the knife guy went into drug treatment and will have to attend drug court and be on probation for years on top of both having to register as felons. The judge said I'm owed restitution, but may take a few years to receive. Ugh. There's a cardinal rule. And I know majority of people do not listen to it. If you are selling something to someone, if it is possible, do not do it at your house. And for the love of God, do not invite them in. What are you doing? And you're by yourself? Take notes, guys. Do not do this. If it's like a refrigerator or something like that, I don't care if it's your freaking neighbor. I don't care if it's the librarian down the street. Have somebody there with you. It's not safe. People are scary. People are scary. I have bought one thing by myself off Craigslist of all places, and it's my little Ivan. I bought it for $100. I went and I drove an hour and a half to meet these people at their house in the middle of freaking nowhere. I didn't have any bad feelings, so I was like, fuck it, who cares? The crazy part is, even though I'm by myself, they had their, what I can assume, underage child do the transaction with me. The girl didn't even count the money. She was by herself in this house with a stranger. Not very smart, but it's okay because I got my little Iva baby. It's my profile picture if you don't know who he is. It's my little white schnauzy. We think it's a schnauzer. I'm gonna be honest. I think he's mixed with something. I don't know though, because he's a little mutt. He's just a little thing. He's not certified in anything. He just was some Craigslist ad. They were trying to get rid of him. I was like, ooh, I'll take it. Let's go to another one. I once went hiking with this guy. He showed me a dead body. This started when I was at my childhood friend's apartment for what was supposed to be a fun little movie night. We hadn't hung out in a while, and we were catching up. Her place was cozy, a little disorganized, and full of girly decor. We were in our comfiest sweatpants, about to watch princess movies. Her apartment isn't the most tidy. Things are a bit scattered around, but it's clean and so authentic, which always made me feel at home. We decided on ordering a pizza for dinner. She mentioned that Sherwood, someone I hadn't met yet, would bring the pizza over. At first, I was not happy to hear that. I thought that meant she had invited other friends, a boy, over to join us, which wasn't what I had in mind, but I was in for a surprise. Sherwood turned out to just be our delivery guy for the night. He wasn't joining us. When we got to the apartment, there was this awkward air about him. He was obviously nervous, fumbled a bit with the pizza boxes, and not quite making eye contact. My friend introduced us quickly, and it was clear from her overly thankful demeanor that Sherwood did a lot more for her than just fetch dinner. After handing us the pizza, there was this brief moment of forced small talk. My friend was super nice to him despite his awkwardness. He wasn't the best conversationalist and seemed really out of place. Then Sherwood asked for my number. I was in a tough spot because our mutual friend was sitting right there, so I just gave it to him. Yeah, we chatted for maybe 5 minutes before my friend gave him the cue to leave with something like, "Thanks so much for dropping this off." He seemed to get the hint. We both gave him a hug before my friend said something like, "Drive safe," giving him another cue to leave. When I asked my friend what that was all about, she basically explained that Sherwood was her unpaid personal assistant. He did her grocery shopping, he dropped off pizza, and he did all of this other stuff. I think Sherwood was just a lonely guy desperate for interaction, especially female interaction. My friend and I were both young and immature back then. We were both 23, but I think we both knew something was seriously wrong with Sherwood. It was a little hard to articulate because we couldn't point out exactly what his problem was. Sherwood started a group chat with my friend and me. He just sent a meme or two every week. It felt like he was trying to stay relevant without being intrusive. Maybe he was used to being sidelined or even blocked by other girls in the past. It felt like he was trying to make me remember him, but also carefully trying not to give me a reason to block him too. I can't speak on his behalf, just what it felt like. Sherwood also offered help with errands. The first time I said, "Thanks for asking, but no." He asked every weekend after that. One day, I made the mistake of accepting his help. I knew better. I had recently found a great deal for a new washing machine on Craigslist, but I had no idea how to pick it up and install it, which I mentioned in the chat. Sherwood excitedly volunteered to take care of the whole thing. He handled the whole pickup and installation like a total champ, which saved me so much hassle. I tried to pay him for his efforts because I wanted to show appreciation, but he wouldn't accept any money. I insisted. Eventually, he suggested that I could repay him by joining him for a hike. Like, what? I was uneasy about this. It felt a bit too personal and almost felt like it could be mistaken for a date. But Sherwood framed it as nothing more than a friendly outing, like a transaction to balance out the favor. I agreed to the hike. I rationalized it by telling myself it was fair trade for installing the washing machine and that it was genuinely a form of payment, especially since I didn't think he had too many friends. This hike felt like maybe a way for him to have some companionship. I thought it might be nice helping him. Part of me was still uneasy about spending time with him in such an isolated setting. The day of the hike, Sherwood picked the trail that was nearby. I had been there before. It's gorgeous. As he walked along together, he chatted about ordinary things like work, the weather, and his hobbies. Everything seemed normal until he suggested we go off main path to see something special. He wanted to share. Like, what could that even mean? We reached this secluded spot, and there, oh my gosh, was a body. My heart pounded so violently as Sherwood stood there, so eerily calm and nonchalant. The calmness in his demeanor made me feel even more uneasy. It felt like he wasn't just showing me a dead body, but also revealing this darker side of him. It smelled bad, but not like in the movies. I didn't know how long it had been there. I am not a biologist, but my guess is that it had smelled a lot worse before, but now it had gone down. At that moment, I mumbled some excuse about needing to get back quickly feet and started walking briskly toward the main path. I urged Sherwood to follow me. I thought maybe this was some twisted mind game, like a way to intimidate me or show me that he wasn't just some harmless little boy. Maybe he was trying to send me a message that said, "You should know, I'm familiar with things like this." Oh, there's another possibility. Maybe he just wanted me to think about him more. Sometimes when I talk to people, I feel like they only notice me for the time that we're together, and then they won't think of me again until the next time we meet. It's possible Sherwood felt that way with me, and maybe he thought showing me a dead body would make him less forgettable. I have no idea. But on the surface, he seemed oblivious to how inappropriate this was. As we walked back together, I was in full fight or flight mode, instinctively looking around to see if there were other hikers or rangers, anyone who could make me feel like I wasn't alone. The moment I spotted someone else on the trail, I called out, not to expose Sherwood, but just asking for directions back to the parking area. I wanted to make sure Sherwood and I wouldn't be left alone together. I asked this gentleman to walk us back to the parking lot. I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I kept pretending like I was confused about his directions, and eventually he agreed to just walk us there. Getting help from that guy was my way of re-anchoring myself to safety. Normality while I was still under the shock of what Sherwood had shown me. He got to the parking area. There, I called my friend and told her I was with Sherwood. I suggested he could drop me off with her and that we'd be there in 20 minutes. Sherwood agreed. That was my way of making sure that if anything happened, it was on record that Sherwood was the last person to have been with me. Also, I immediately texted my friend what had happened to get that on record too. When I got to the apartment, we said thanks to Sherwood and kindly told him to go away. I had already told her through text, but then I started going all into detail. The fact that the body had insects and the fact that the face was decomposing, but still recognizable, etc. Her reaction was pure horror. Not just about the dead body, but also how nonchalantly Sherwood had treated the whole situation. She confessed she always sensed something was off about him, even though she'd never imagined anything this disturbing. We both agreed that we needed to remove Sherwood from our lives. She admitted she felt stuck and she had become too reliant on Sherwood to just fire him cold turkey. We planned out how we would do it. It was the gradual phasing out plan. We would limit our interactions to times when others were present. We would slowly reduce our responses to his text. I would never ask for his help again, and my friend would ask less and less help. Sherwood kept texting during weekends, offering to run errands or asking if we need anything, to which my friend would reply, "I'm trying to work on being more independent, but you've really been such a help." Eventually, as my friend started dating someone new, she introduced Sherwood to her boyfriend. Sherwood never contacted her after that. I had called the cops the same night of the incident, but it was a while before we heard more news about it. At least a full month later, a news report confirmed discovering a dead body in that area where Sherwood had taken me hiking. They made an arrest, not of Sherwood, but of this other guy that Sherwood followed on Instagram. I had no idea if Sherwood was connected to the murder. Reflecting on everything, I think there's one clear moral of the story. Trust your instincts. When somebody is this generous, there's usually something wrong with them. There's usually something out. Either they really like you or they're fucking weird. And I think it was both. I think he liked your friend, and when your friend was just using him, he's like, well, let me try and get with her. And because you wouldn't bail, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna show her a dead body. I think, personally, on this, I think he was involved and he just had to tell somebody. Even if it's not directly telling somebody. Because it's really weird that he follows the guy on Instagram. Let's get real. Let's get freaking real. My true theory, my true thoughts on this is he had all these errands for alibis. So he could be like, oh, well, I was just doing this for this girl. Oh, I was just doing this for this girl. And you're not going to deny it because you use him like a puppet. You're like, yeah, probably. He probably was. Fuck if I know. I don't know. I use him every day, all day for everything. Don't do this. I know he begs you, but don't take advantage of stuff like this, you guys. Come on. I will say, somebody's reaction to a deceased body, I don't think that's a clear representation of their personality. For them to feel nothing, of course, it's weird. Because I remember at my job interview for the morgue, it was surreal. They walked me through the morgue and they were currently doing autopsies. I see somebody doing an autopsy. For those of you that don't know, when you do an autopsy, your scalp is taken from the back, it's cut, and it's pulled all the way forward to about your eyebrows. So that was pulled forward. The chest cavity with the Y cut, filleted open. The whole thing, the chest plate was gone. All of this was already cleared out from top to bottom, empty cavity. It seems not real. You look at it and you feel fuzzy. You're like, I'm not really seeing this. I am not really seeing this. But for me now, I still have that. This feels weird. This feels uncomfortable. Here's the thing though, is if I were to see a deceased body in a proper setting, it would be a completely different feeling than if I see it out in the public. Even though you'd see murder victims in the morgue, it would be different if you see that same murder victim where they died. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just so weird. It sounds like your guy's involved. Anyways, let's go to another one. Had new neighbors moving across the road. I'd see them fighting in the mornings about him taking the kids to school and her screaming at him telling him to leave her alone. She would just walk them, etc. I just figured they were a toxic couple, felt bad for the kids and ignored it. One morning, I'm coming back from walking my kids to school and get halfway up my block before I feel this feeling of pure evil staring at me. I look around for its source and see the assumed boyfriend to be dead staring at me with eyes as black as night. It was really unsettling and I thought he'd look away like a normal person. But no, he just watches my every move until I walk into my house. I lock my door so fucking fast and go to close my front blinds just to see him still staring my house down. Weirded me the fuck out, but kind of forgot about it as the day goes on. That night, I heard him across the street having what I believe to be rough sex. She's screaming, he's demanding her to call his name. Obviously spanking going on, moaning, you get the gist. What insane people, I think. Close my windows, go to bed. Wake up to a mother screaming, my baby is dead. Detectives shortly after at my door asking if I saw anything because the mother across the street is dead. I mentioned the crazy boyfriend, to which I found out she didn't have one. Apparently the month she moved in, he moved in downstairs and started stalking her. Those times she told him to leave her alone was because he was stalking her and trying to force her kids to get a ride from him. That rough sex I assumed was consensual was him and her, and him staring me down could have been because I was a potential target too and he was a predator. I have so much survivor guilt and guilt for not knowing her situation or calling the police when I saw and heard questionable behavior. I live in a fairly large city with a lot of crazy domestic issues and just became immune to toxic couples fighting openly outside and assumed it as such. Obviously, our surrounding neighbors assumed similar and ignored it too, but it still haunts me to this day that 3 beautiful babies lost their mother that day, and I did absolutely nothing to stop it. It also terrifies me that I could have been that mother too, but I have a husband and dogs, whereas she was always alone and the perfect victim for that sicko. My heart breaks for those children, and I'm not sure I'll ever forgive myself for that night. My heart goes out to people that have survivor guilt like this. And it is easier said than done, but something I have learned after losing my father and knowing if I knew the things I know now, back then, things could have been different. I think everything happens for a reason, bad or good. I know. Nobody's meant to die. Nobody is meant to have a tragic death. But I do think that things like this, they're meant to happen. The fact that you're feeling this, you will never let this happen again. Even if you just have a feeling, you're going to act on it. I know it sounds shitty to say everything happens for a reason, because I say that to a lot of people. And I'm like, even my father's death, it was meant to happen. I know it sucks, but I think I am the person I am today because I was the one that found him. It changed my perspective on a lot of things. It changed my perspective on the way I do things. And I think that the love interest that I've had, I think that the friends that I've had, the hobbies that I did, a lot of the things probably would have been different if I had my father today. So you would not fucking put up with it. But to feel bad about this, I understand, but you can't. You cannot feel bad. You did not know. And most people, when you pry in situations like this, they're just gonna get pissed off and tell you to go fuck yourself and mind your own business. Yes, you could have called the cops anonymously, but who calls the cops on somebody having sex? Nobody does. I mean, some people do, but you know what I mean. Anyways, let's go to another one. This happened to me about 5 years ago, and even now I get the chills just thinking about it. I was renting a small house in a quiet neighborhood at the time. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was cozy, affordable, and had a lot of character. The only thing I didn't love was the crawl space under the house. The access door to it was in the laundry room, a square wooden hatch flush with the door. It was locked from the outside, and I never had any reason to open it. I figured it was just pipes, cobwebs, and the usual creepy crawl space stuff. One evening, I came home late from work. It had been a stressful day, and all I wanted was a shower and to collapse into bed. As I stepped inside, I noticed something strange. My laundry room light was on. I was sure I'd turned it off that morning, but I chalked it up to just being absent-minded in my rush and turned it off again. That night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to a faint noise. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but as I lay there, I realized it was coming from the laundry room. A soft, rhythmic thumping sound. My heart started to race. I debated whether to get up and check or just stay in bed and hope it stopped. Curiosity got the better of me, so I grabbed my phone for light and tiptoed to the laundry room. Once I opened the door, everything was quiet. But then I saw it. The hatch to the crawl space was slightly ajar. My stomach dropped. I distinctively remember it being locked, and there was no way I could have accidentally opened it. Trying to stay calm, I convinced myself it might be an animal that had somehow gotten in. I shut the hatch tightly and placed a heavy box of detergent on top of it before going back to bed. Girl, you should have cleared the house first. Should have cleared the house before going to bed. The next day, I called the landlord to ask if there was any pest issues I should know about. He seemed surprised and said no one had reported anything like that before. Still, he promised to send someone over to check it out. That night, I double-checked the hatch and even put a chair on top of it for good measure. I didn't hear any noises, and I started to feel a little silly for being so freaked out. But around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. I froze. My bedroom door doesn't creak unless you push it slowly. I knew I had closed it before bed. I stayed as still as I could, barely breathing, as I heard soft footsteps shuffle in the room. My phone was on the nightstand, just out of reach. The footsteps stopped right next to my bed. I could feel someone's presence, their quiet breathing in the dark, summoning every ounce of courage I had. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and swung it toward the intruder. There was a man, crouched on the floor, his face pale and gaunt, his eyes wide and unblinking. He looked just as startled as I was. I screamed and bolted out of the room, running outside to the neighbor's house. I banged on their door until they let me in, and they called the police. When the officer arrived, they found the man still in my house, hiding in the crawl space. He had a small mattress, some food wrappers, and a collection of random items he must have taken from my house. The lock on the hatch had been tampered with, and from the looks of it, he had been living under my house for at least a few days, maybe longer. The scariest part? The police said they found a notebook with detailed notes about me. He had written down my daily routine when I left for work, when I came home, even what I wore. There was also a list of plans, though they wouldn't tell me what was on it. I moved out the next week and stayed with friends until I found a new place. To this day, I have no idea how he got in or how long he's been watching me before I noticed something was wrong. So the man in the crawl space, let's not meet ever. Ooh. I am terrified of, as they call, froggers. There is a very weirdly placed attic in my house. We've looked up there before, but it always kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies. So my closet, for whatever reason, is one of the tallest points in the house. I don't know why. So when you walk in the closet and you look up, there's those typical attic little doors that you kind of like push up and move to the side, and it has to be 13 feet up. Why the fuck is that there? And it makes me feel weird. I don't really like it because I'm a little paranoid, okay? I am a little paranoid. Tell you what. I'm terrified of this though. I always joke and I'm like, oh, there's a little man living in my attic coming down to eat my salami in the middle of the night. If they were just coming down to eat, that's fine. Just please don't murder me or my dogs or touch me or watch me in my sleep. What the fuck is that? If I had one of those doors in my basement, I would 100% figure out a way to block it with something heavy, especially if the lock is through the outside. You said you don't know how he got in there. The lock is on the outside, unless I am remembering the story wrong, but I would secure the fuck out of that because nope. Scare stuff. Let's go to another one. I'm a criminal defense investigator. One of my first big cases was a double homicide on a rural property. The case involved two brothers, and one of whom was autistic. We'll call him Dan. And the other one was schizophrenic. We'll call him Ben. They were hoarders and recluses, but they had inherited a few large parcels of land spread throughout the state. I represented Dan, who was accused of shooting two men who were trespassing on his property. Since both brothers were joint owners of the property, I often had to deal with Ben, either getting him permission to investigate on the property or getting him to sign paperwork. Ben lived in an old potato dugout in the desert, several hours away from property where the homicides happened. He also didn't have a cell phone, email, or indoor plumbing, so whenever I needed to talk to him, I had to drive several hours over the mountains and go yell at his shack until he came out. That sounds like my ideal situation. I wasn't about to jump his fence to knock on his door unannounced. I liked Ben. He was batshit crazy, and he would spend an hour telling you all about the lizard people and the secret tunnels that connect all the Walmarts, but he was friendly, and I suspect some of his crazy was just for show. Are we talking about me? I'm just kidding, you guys. This case lasted for several years, and eventually Ben met Sally. Sally was a local desert tweaker who initially mistook Ben's schizophrenia for a kindred spirit. I met her a few times when dealing with Ben, and I even went to see her in jail after she had stolen Ben's car and tried to drive it down the railroad tracks. She was oddly charming when sober and kind of pretty in a hard way. One winter, I had to drive out to Ben's place to bother him about something. It was dark by the time I got there, so I just honked my horn and yelled out for Ben. Eventually, he came outside with Sally close behind him. I said hello and made pleasantries while he was signing whatever paperwork I had. All the while, Sally was sulking in the shadows, staring daggers at me. I couldn't get a good look at her. I could tell that this was a different person than the charming junkie I'd met before. Eventually, I extracted myself from Ben's lecture on the microphones in his teeth and made my way back to my car. As I was putting paperwork away, Ben came running up to my car and told me he had something to show me inside. Ben had never invited me inside before, and something felt off. I trusted my gut and I told him I had to get going, and he seemed oddly relieved by my decision to leave. A few months later, I read in the paper that Sally murdered Ben, chopped up his body, and hid him inside of the derelict appliances strewn about the property. Working backward from when the body was discovered and how long they estimated it had been there, she must have killed him not long after the night of my visit, and I'm convinced she had something waiting for me if I had accepted Ben's invitation. Always trust your gut. Moral story, trust your gut. Or you gonna get gutted. Not funny. Somebody died, you guys. Not funny. Let's go to another one. So I will tell you my scary story. I lived in a cabin up in Manaway, Utah. It overlooked this beautiful, the view was absolutely stunning. I'll show you right here. It had no plumbing, no electricity. It had nothing at all. So I had to walk all the way down this hill to fetch my water. There was a porta potty that was set up outside of my cabin that would get cleaned out once a week. It was so cute, but I will say, it was scary because I was by myself. And I'm pretty sure I kind of lost my fucking mind because I don't remember a majority of nights of being there. And I was drinking pretty heavily, let's get real. But there was one day I ordered DoorDash to come to my house. I did it a lot. It wasn't like a uncommon thing because I can't cook. I can't store food. I can't even shower. I would shower at work, or I would go to a campsite, or I'd do something. So I couldn't store anything. Yeah, I could get ice or whatever. So many things. So there was this one day I ordered DoorDash and they dropped it off at my door and they claimed to know me. Which I'm in Manaway. No, the fuck you don't. The only people I knew in Utah, they lived 45 minutes to an hour and a half away from where I was living. Because I had moved to the middle of fucking nowhere. And I was like, you don't know me. Promise you don't know me. He's like, yeah, I know you. I know you from somewhere. I'm like, okay, whatever. Anyways, give me my sub. So I take my sub and I swear to God. This is what I think I saw. I'm really not sure because I really think I was losing my mind. I was living off of pineapple and vodka. And canned tuna. So there was like a highway down on the, like way down on the street, down the hill. But you could see a car coming from a hot minute if they're coming up to me. So I see a car with lights coming, and I have no blinds or anything. I can see clearly outside my house. I can see the lake. I can see everything. I lit my house very strangely because I didn't have blinds or anything. I had this bunch of LED lights that hung at the front door that were battery operated, and then I'd have a shitload of candles lit everywhere. Sometimes it would just be this little light, which would be enough to illuminate the small cabin, but not to the point of like a functioning thing. It was like dim. Like everything else was dim except for right in front of it. But I did have my TV and things like that, and I had a generator, and I could watch maybe one episode of a TV show with my generator. So I had a few of those, and then I had like those portable chargers for my phone. I had a bunch of portable shit. Getting off track. So there was this car coming up, and then it's coming up the hill to me. And as I mentioned, I'm in the middle of nowhere. So the only other house that I can see is the one all the way at the bottom of the hill, and then right to the right of that person, like midway between me and this other person, but their driveway is on a completely different area. So if they go past that initial house, they're coming to me. So they're driving up and driving up and driving up, and then all of a sudden they're like midway up and the lights turn out. So I'm like, okay, cool, they're coming up here. I didn't have any weapons on me. I had a machete, that's about it. It's not really gonna stop anything. Anyways, I hear, because you know it's quiet, I don't have fucking electricity, I have my phone, that's it. So I hear the car pull up in front of my cabin. And the cool thing about this cabin is you kind of have to go like down in this little dirt swoop to get to the front door. So the car is gonna be like level with my roof at my front door, not the rest of the cabin, of course. So I hear the car pull up, and it's just quiet. Their car turns off, and I think, what are the odds? This is my food delivery guy from earlier. What are the odds? There was two doors. It's a front door, and if you go a little bit to the right, there's this little sloop of wood that you walk up, and then there's another door to get in with a window, which I had that door blocked with a couch, so nobody was getting in that door. This is also the door that they did the delivery at for whatever reason, because it's technically a back door. So all of a sudden, because this wood plank that you had to walk up was very loud, so all of a sudden I'm hearing footsteps, and then they get faint, and then I hear the wood planks, and I'm hearing the walking, and I'm hearing the walking, and then it stops. I'm in a position where I am not in direct view. There was like this little L that you could stand behind, and I was like hiding from this door because I could hear clearly that there's somebody there. So I'm just standing there, and I am terrified. I have my knife, and my dogs are losing their fucking minds. They are barking their fucking ass off. And so I'm just sitting there like, let me just not let him see me. This is a little foggy because my adrenaline was going crazy, and I was so scared. So he stood there for what maybe felt like 30 minutes. And this margin I was hiding behind, it was big enough to where I could scoot back enough to look at my phone. But I'm just sitting there like, should I call the cops? Should I call the cops? What should I do? I kid you not. This man goes, hey, it's your delivery driver from earlier. Hey, I just wanted to stop by and see if you're doing okay. I know you're alone out here. I'm just like, I swear to God, if you fucking breathe loud. So I'm just sitting there shaking. I'm texting my boyfriend, and I'm like, hey, I think there's somebody at my house. So I'm kind of freaking the fuck out at this point. I just stay quiet. I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna let him know I'm even in this house. So eventually, he walks away. Because after he says this shit to me, he still sits there for like, it might have been a minute. It felt like fucking hours. He was standing there. So my boyfriend ends up driving up to my place, staying for the weekend. We covered up all the windows with blankets, including that door. But here's the thing. In this cabin, you have to walk outside to use the bathroom in the porta potty. So I couldn't use the bathroom for the rest of the night. Because I was on like 25 plus acres of land. So it's a huge area where anybody could fucking sitting. Anybody. And he's obviously not stupid. He turned off his lights halfway up, which if you have good intentions, you don't turn your lights out. But I ended up telling the guy I was renting the cabin from, and they kind of kept a lookout, and they were like, we didn't see anybody drive up, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm fucking crazy. But it made me get out of this place quicker because I'm like, it's really not safe. I don't have the most structured, secure door. I could get bear mace. I could get a gun again. I could do all these things. And I was just like, it's not really safe. I don't have AC. I don't have running water. I don't really have things. I could build this stuff up, but what's the fucking point? I'm not even going to be able to drive up this dirt. Anyways, I swear, every single night after that, I stopped ordering food, obviously, because no, thank you. I would just have my packaged tuna, my pineapples, and my box. I was good to go. Yeah. So after that, I ended up ordering a toilet for inside of my house that you have like a bag for, which it's not ideal. But I was like, if this situation were to rise again, if I have to use the restroom at all, I need to have a way to do it besides stepping outside of this cabin in the pitch black. And when I say that it was black outside, only thing you can see is the stars. Unless the moon was full, there was no faint light. It was like you see this in front of you and that's about it. It was dark, and so quiet. When I first moved in, it was infested with grasshoppers. It was like hundreds. You would walk and it's like insane. Anyways, let's go to another one. What's the most inexplainable time your gut instinct was 100% right, even though you had no evidence to back it up? I've told this story before, so I'll copy and paste. My boyfriend at the time and I were house sitting for his uncle. My boyfriend was at work and I was bathing our son before bed. I had the bathroom window facing the backyard, very slightly cracked, and I heard a cough from outside. This house was in a residential area, so it could have been a neighbor. But I suddenly felt anxious and scared, and something told me to go make sure the back door was locked. I left my 2-year-old son alone in a towel in the bathroom and ran to the back door. As I placed my hand on the doorknob locking it, I came face to face with someone through the glass, who had his hand on the outside doorknob. He started pounding on the door and jiggling the doorknob, saying he was looking for someone. And I just told him, no, they're not here. He kept jiggling the doorknob, and I ran to my son and grabbed my cell phone to call for help. Remember, I'm house sitting though, and this was in 2004, 2005. When they had those flip open phones, not a smartphone where you can just look at a map. So I had no idea what the address was or where the house phone was. Anyways, I called 911 from the bathroom on my cell while hearing loud pounding at the back door. The dispatchers tell me to find a house phone, piece of mail, anything with address. I locate the house phone and call 911 from that. So have no idea how police got there so quickly, but just as I hear the back door glass break, the guy on the phone tells me to cover my son's head with a blanket and run out the front door and run into the back seat of the police car. I ran out of the front door and saw 6 or more police cars, all with guns drawn, and straight into the waiting cruiser. After they arrested the guy, they asked me if the machete on the back porch belonged to the owners of the house. The guy had a machete, and had I not trusted my gut that the cough sounded a little too close and to check the back door, he would have walked right into an unlocked house to a 19-year-old female and her young son alone. Turns out he had been robbing houses and had a backpack full of stolen things and was high on meth. Anyways, super glad I followed my gut on that one. I am so annoying with locking doors. I'm sure I piss everybody off because even my back door, to which I have a fenced backyard, it stays locked. I'll open the security gate because I have a doggy door, but that door's staying locked. Nope, the door is staying locked. Especially if I'm home alone. No, every door in the house is staying locked. We stay locked. Windows stay locked. Everything stays locked. Ain't gonna catch me slipping. No. Because people are opportunists. They are opportunists. Even if they didn't plan on it, because they can, they will. And I think this is so funny because this was a TV show that I saw years ago. I still remember it, and it's a huge reason why I lock my doors. And I don't remember what show it was, but this woman, she was living in the suburbs, a really nice house, and she was cooking. She had her garage door unlocked and her garage door connected to the kitchen. So she was sitting there cooking. She lived in a nice neighborhood, so she didn't lock her doors. And I might have told the story before. I'm sorry, guys. It's very important story in my life. So these teenagers, they walk up the driveway, they walk into her garage door, they see her facing her, she's facing away. Her back is to these people as they walk in, and they just stab her ass to death. That's it. That quick. She didn't even get a chance to turn around or do anything, because they just came up and started. That story, coupled with the pictures, I was like, we ain't keeping doors unlocked in this house. I don't care if it's in a fenced backyard. We're not doing it. No. And you guys shouldn't either. I don't care how good your neighborhood is. Lock your effing doors. Unless you have, unless your house is surrounded by cement bricks or something, you ain't safe. Sorry. You ain't. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. It's all up to you.